row convictions. I know. Interesting stuff that with all the true crime people we've got out there that love that stuff. And so we're going to get into that. And there is a case out of Louisiana that involves a Jimmie Duncan, who was just recently exonerated for bite mark evidence, and that was put forth by a Dr. Michael West. Now, I don't know if all y'all know who Dr. West was, but he was what's called a forensic odontologist. And he was also involved with a man named Dr. Stephen Hain, who passed away in 2020, who was the state's forensic pathologist for a very long time. I actually had a lot of cases with Dr. Hain, a lot of murder cases where he was our forensic pathologist between the years about 2008, 2010. And then he was removed from that position based on, a lot of things, a lot of errors he had made over the years. And he had worked in conjunction with this Dr. West, who is, again, a forensic odontologist. Forensic odontology is dental bite marks that they that they look on dead bodies to see, like, if somebody had actually bit the person. So so they're sorry. Excuse me, just give me a second. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, it's bite mark evidence where where they check somebody's dental and dental impressions on a body, and so Dr. West had done this for years. He had actually done this in the case that are kind of infamous around here called Kennedy Brewer and Levon Brooks out of Noxubee County in the early 1990s. And in those cases, Levon Brooks was convicted in, I believe, 1992 for the murder of a young girl named Courtney Smith, and Kennedy Brewer was convicted around 94, 95 for the murder of Christine Jackson. Both girls under the age of 5 that were found in a creek with that had been sexually assaulted and murdered. And it was several years apart, but the same type of crime. So it was kind of random for that small of a town to have 2 murders that were exactly alike, and you got 2 people that were wrongfully convicted at different times for them. And the DA at that time in that district was Forrest Allgood, who's kind of had notorious issues with these problems over the years. So anyway, this evidence came out later and years went by where, Dr. West's testimony was junk. It came out junk science. Well, apparently he's back in full effect with the Jimmie Duncan case, a case out of 1998 where he did the same thing regarding another young girl, where his evidence has come to be basically junk. It's completely junk. So this man is now, a judge has ruled him factually innocent right now, Lindsey. And we watched that last night, and some of that stuff on Kennedy Brewer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what did you think about all that?
Well, I mean, I think it makes a good point that you have somebody on death row, and, we had a caller, we were talking about this the other day, who said that when we put somebody on death row, we should just go ahead and kill them, and that way it doesn't cost the state all the money for all the appeals and everything. But I think this is a perfect example of why we have to do that, because sometimes there are innocent people on death row.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, that's the biggest problem. I mean, we were talking about how the death row process, it's long. You go through the trial's extensive. I know I've been the lead prosecutor in one of them, and the appellate process is extremely long. We just put to death a man a week or 2 ago. I think his name was Jordan, and he was 79 years old, had been on death row since, I believe, the late 70s or something like that. So it's an extensive process, and that's and causes the delays from that to make sure we get it right. But I think it's important because we have cases like Kennedy Brewer and Levon Brooks where they didn't get it right at the time, and you needed them that amount of time. So we're talking about, for those guys' cases, we're talking about the early 1990s. They were actually, Kennedy Brewer was excluded. His semen was actually excluded as a contributor to Christine Jackson in 2001. And it wasn't until 2008 that he was officially exonerated and released. So this is a long process that, that's happened. And that's why we go through that long process. That's why we need that, because when you're going to put somebody to death, you got to, cross all your T's and dot all your I's, and that, to make sure everything's done right. So I know people think, well, it's frustrating because, like, what's the point of the death penalty if we're not doing it swiftly? It doesn't really mean anything then. But we're not doing it swiftly because you have these situations. Now we got another situation in Louisiana with this Jimmie Duncan, and we have the same experts, and Dr. Hain and Dr. West, who have 9 people that they have testified against have been exonerated on death row. 9 people. That's what we're talking. That's a lot of folks, Lindsey.
Yeah.
you
It
know?
is.
So, I mean, well, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, like we were talking about before, I don't really believe that a human should get to say when it's somebody's time to die. And I think that does go back to my religious beliefs a lot of the time. But then again, if it was one of my family members, I would probably feel a lot differently about that. But I definitely understand why there is a process and there are appeals, because you can have cases like this. And I last night we were watching about these two men who were wrongly convicted and spent a large part of their lives, adult lives, in prison. And it's just heartbreaking. I
Yeah.
mean, nothing can get them that time back. They can. There's not even an amount of money that could ever. I think you were telling me that there's a cap at $500,000. You know, that what a joke when you've spent 20 years in jail.
Yeah, I believe that on the wrongfully convicted cap, I think it's $500,000 that you can get, and it's like I think it's 50,000 per year that you were in jail with a cap of $500,000. So, and that's what I believe both Levon Brooks, obviously, and Kenny Brewer received that money. The what did you think? We were watching that. What did you think about the DA and how hard he was fighting against all this stuff?
You mean trying to convict the guys?
Well, after it was coming out that there was evidence, like, okay, with the part in 2001 when Kennedy Brewer's semen didn't match Christine Jackson, they finally tested that. Because also, y'all, I know sometimes I jump forward a little bit, but in the early 1990s, our DNA technology isn't what it is today. It's not that you see that, we've got DNA, we test it, it's easy. I've done DNA testimony tons and tons of times in court, and it's more readily available now than it was 30 years ago. But by 2001, they were able to send this off and exclude him as a contributor of the semen that was in Christine Jackson's anus, I believe. So at that point, the DA, Forrest Allgood, was still fighting against letting Kennedy Brewer go. He wanted to retry him. And what did you think about it? I know you were watching that and you were kind of making comments about that. What did you feel about that?
I mean, I thought it was disgusting.
Yeah, I mean,
It makes no sense. Well, like this case that came out that you sent me the article about yesterday. I mean, there's still the family of the victim is wanting this man to be released,
yeah.
and they are still wanting to keep him in jail.
Yeah, and that's sad. I think a lot of that the DA in Louisiana, that I can't pronounce that county, Cochita something. Do you know how to say that? Cochita or whatever. The
Parish, not county.
Parish. Sorry, they've appealed the judge's decision based on finding Mr. Duncan factually innocent. And I mean, a lot of it, I think, Lindsey, is the prosecutors are probably like trying to cover their butt. They're like, we put an innocent man on death row for the last 30 years. Like there's a lot of butt covering going on here. I felt that way with the Forrest Allgood situation on both those cases, because you can't, I mean, the kind of F up that Allgood did in the early 90s, I'm sure he was trying to cover it up as much as he could. I mean, even in the documentary, you can see where he says, like, well, I mean, he could have sold her for crack rock, or Kennedy Brewer could have been involved, even though his semen was excluded. I mean, come on. Like, that's
Well,
just
the bite mark expert, which I think that's a very loose term there,
right.
since I don't consider him much of an expert since he's been wrong every time. But even he was saying he wasn't wrong. He's still not he doubled down that he was right.
Yeah. Yeah, he doubled down. He kept going. Well, the biomark expert for sure. He was, I had a lot of dealings with Dr. Hain, who was best friends with this Dr. West, he was just a junk scientist with the stuff that he's done. And he told me about that Dr. West had this light that he could shine on your hand and tell if you were holding a weapon of some sorts, like some ultraviolet light that he had created. And it's kind of like an urban legend around the prosecutor community that Dr. West was shucking this thing. I never talked to Dr. West about it, but that's what Hain had told me before he died, that West had this device that, said that he could do these things. And apparently he couldn't testify correctly because, 9 people that he testified against were exonerated. And that's just it's just amazing to me. And if you want to watch the documentary, it's on Netflix. It's called The Innocence Files, and it's the first 2 episodes. And Dr. West is so brazen about the whole thing, Lindsey. That's what's just amazing to me. He just kind of is laughing the whole thing off like he doesn't care.
Yeah, I mean, and then eventually they had someone who confessed.
Yeah, they did. So after all of this, where we've got Kennedy Brewer's semen is excluded in 2001 from Christine Jackson. Then there's a investigator named Ernest Eichelberger, and I've got some of the backstory of this because one of my friends actually represented Kennedy Brewer back then in the early 90s. And he thought it was this other guy named Justin Albert Johnson, who we saw on the documentary as well. So they went and tested him, and his semen was included as a contributor to what was found in Christine Jackson. So then they interviewed Justin Albert Johnson, and he confessed to the killing Christine Jackson, the one that Kennedy Brewer had been put on death row for. Well, then they asked him about Levon Brooks, and initially he had denied killing that girl, Courtney Smith, but they pushed him a little more, and eventually he got there and he said, yeah, I did that one too. So after all these years, from the early 90s till 2008, you've got these two guys that are on, one's on death row, one's life without parole. Levon Brooks did not, fortunately, get the death penalty. And this guy, Justin Albert Johnson, is just living in the community, had killed these two girls as a sicko, didn't kill any other girls after that, I believe. I don't think there was any other things with him. It's kind of weird.
They were like, what, 18 months apart?
The murders were about 18 months
and
apart.
Very, very similar, and not just a few miles away from each other.
And right, exactly. And similar homes. I mean, you look at these homes are kind of like just shanty shacks. I mean, they're very, very poor people living in these conditions. And it was, the first one was in 1990. And Courtney Smith was 3 then. And then 1992, Christine Jackson, who was also 3. So very like 2 years, 18 months apart, right about that time frame. So in this small, tiny, if everybody knows that part of Mississippi, East Mississippi, Knoxville County, it's a small little area. It'd be like Lindsey, like if Yazoo City's bigger than that. But if 2 murders like that happen in Yazoo City, y'all, that would raise suspicions, wouldn't it? Like the same exact kind of murders, and then 2 different guys are getting blamed for it.
Yeah.
If it happened in Jackson, there's a lot more people. So you could say, okay, well, that's possible considering all the people that live in Jackson. But when you have a small community and you have that kind of heinous crime. And so what my friend that represented Kennedy Brewer said, that the thing about it was when they were on trial for that case, which was after Levon Brooks, that people believed that Kennedy had actually done both of them and that Levon was innocent. So that's what kind of the word on the street was in the community, that, Levon had got wrongfully convicted for that, and that Kennedy was the actual killer of both of them. And because it just didn't, obviously didn't make sense that 2 guys in the small community committed the same exact crimes, 18 months, 2 years apart. And so that's kind of the consensus of the community. Now, my buddy called a Dr. Souveron to counter Dr. West's testimony, the bite mark evidence that West had put on. And Souveron had actually been the forensic odontologist that had convicted Ted Bundy in 1979 with the bite marks. That was the main evidence in the Ted Bundy infamous trial that I'm sure everybody's heard about. And even the jury didn't believe Souveron that this wasn't Kennedy Brewer's bite marks. They believed Dr. West. They didn't like Souveron because he was like this flashy Miami guy, and West was a Mississippian, and that's kind of the backstory I've gotten from it. So, but Souveron was a far more credentialed expert and totally debunked everything West had said, but they dismissed it, and that was just, unfortunate. And Kennedy Brewer ended up spending many, many years of his life on death row.
Very, very sad. I mean, they had everyone convinced that he was guilty.
They did. They really did.
People he grew up with.
People, the one guy they interviewed, he grew up with them. They thought, that he did it. Just sad case, and one that I've heard around for years because I said close friends worked on it, and now the point prompted this discussion was Mr. Duncan's case that involved Dr. West and Dr. Hain. And again, it's another man, it seems, it's been on death row in Louisiana for nearly 30 years for something he did not do. And that's just a breakdown in our system and something we really need to guard against. And that's very disturbing. But we're going to go to a commercial break right now, and we'll see you all in just a few minutes.
Dust each year. Local business Pure Air Consultants duct cleaning service can rid your home of the dust, dirt, and debris that may be caught in your air ducts. They can eliminate the mold, fungi, and microbes that might be growing inside your ductwork and polluting the air you breathe in your home. Mention WYAB and receive a free UV light with system replacement. Visit online at mypureairconsultants.com. mypureairconsultants.com.
Are you looking to get stronger, fitter, and push your limits? CrossFit Fondren is where Jackson trains. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned athlete, our expert coaches and supportive community will help you crush your goals. Join us for high-intensity workouts that build strength, endurance, and confidence. No gimmicks, just real results. Try your first class today for free. Visit us at CrossFitFondren.com or stop by the gym 3002 North Mill Street in Jackson, in the heart of Fondren.
Nick Bain served Mississippi for over a decade in the State House. During that time, he fought for our children by protecting them against explicit materials pushed by the woke agenda. He protected taxpayers by streamlining government and helped create policies that have made Mississippi better. Nick and his team at Bain Bowen will use the same tenacity in helping you with all your legal matters. Call them today at 601-953-2994. Find Nick online at bainbowen.com. That's BAIN Bowen.com.
Doctor, the AC doctor, what's your diagnosis? My whole house was hot as a fever. Now my house is frozen, 'cause my air conditioner's old. Doctor, my AC's broken. Doctor, the AC doctor, he healed my house, bless my soul.
The AC Doctors is your one-stop provider for air conditioning and heating installation, service, and repair. Contact us for money-saving repairs and lower energy bills.
Doctor, the AC doctor, he healed my house, bless my soul.
Google the AC Doctors and get some relief today. TheACDR.com. What are people saying about Tom's Fried Pies in Richland?
Tom's Fried Pies. And I made the mistake. I ordered one pie. I figured, you know what? I'll try Tex-Mex. It was so good. Man, second go around, I ate the pecan pie. You will need a meat pie and a dessert one. Get both because they are off the hook.
I went to Tom's Fried Pies today, and I'm going back. I tried the taco one, really good. When I go back, I'll bring some home.
Tom'sFriedPies.com.
Pet emergencies don't wait, so why should you? At Urge Vet Emergency Vets of Madison, we offer low wait times and cutting-edge technology to provide fast, expert care for all household pets. Our hours of operation are weeknights 5 p.m. to 8 a.m. and 24 hours on weekends and holidays. Our phone number is 601-790-1918 and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Because when it comes to your pet's health, trust the team that's fast, reliable, and compassionate.
Hi there, it's Lori from the mailroom. Of course, you know we offer shipping with UPS, FedEx, DHL, and the Postal Service. But did you know about all the other services we offer? If you need to have signs made or business cards, brochures, or postcards, we can do that. If you need copies, laminating, or binding, we can do that too. Do you need a notary, need to send a fax, or get a passport photo? Of course we can do that. Come check us out. We are south of Germantown High School at 272 Calhoun Station Parkway, Suite C, mailroomgluckstadt.com.
Come together.
And we're back on this 4th of July. Happy 4th of July, everybody. Lindsey reminded me that I did not say that earlier, but I am trying to learn to use the board. And
He's trying to learn how to use the board over there.
yeah, I am. I really am. I'm really doing my best, y'all. I'm sorry. Lindsey's doing a good job of teaching me how to use it. And everybody, I will not be Kim Wade here, because Kim Wade is the only person in the studio that does not know how to use the board. So I refused to do that, and I wanted to learn. So that's why we're doing a live show, so I can get up to speed on this and beat Kim. Anyway, so we were talking about the Levon Brooks and Kennedy Brewer case in conjunction with the Jimmie Duncan case out of Louisiana. And just a refresher here, Levon Brooks and Kennedy Brewer were two men that were charged with capital murder out of Noxubee County in the early 1990s. Levon Brooks was charged with the death of Courtney Smith, who was 3 years old and abducted and found raped and murdered near her home there in Noxubee County. Her 5-year-old sister actually identified Levon Brooks, who was her mother's boyfriend. Brooks was Courtney Smith's mother's boyfriend. And
at one point, I don't even think he still was at the time.
Was he not at the time? I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at one point he was. And bite mark evidence by Dr. Michael West and then pathologist Stephen Hain was key to Brooks's conviction in that case, as well as the 5-year-old's testimony, which Lindsey actually had a really good take last night, because she's knows a lot about children and what they can absorb and what they.
I have a lot of children.
Like kids. So Ashley Smith, which was Courtney Smith's 5-year-old sister, testified that she saw Levon Brooks in the house. Now that and the bite mark evidence was pretty much all the evidence they had against Levon Brooks in that case.
But that made him look pretty guilty.
It did. It did. The 5-year-old pointing him out in the courtroom. But you were saying something, since I don't know a lot about kids, but you were saying something about the kids just can't remember things at the same time, and they have time issues. Is that what you were trying to tell me?
Well, I mean, not necessarily time issues, but when you ask a child a question over and over and over and over and over, they think they're giving you the wrong answer. So they're going to change it and give you the answer they think that you want to hear.
Okay.
And I think that that's what happened in this case. And she said something about him. I think at one point they had asked her, "Who did you see pick up your sister?" And maybe in her mind, she was thinking not even about that night, but maybe at some point in her house, because they were asking, "Who did you see in your house?"
Right.
She knows she had seen this man in her house before, and she was able to name him, and so she did. And then they liked that response, so that's the response that she's going to give, because she's wanting to please whoever this is who's asking. And they also got like this guy who did these kids shows, like worked
Uncle
with,
Bucky.
yeah, to
That
come
was,
in
that
and
was
talk
nuts.
to her, which was disgusting in my opinion, because it's like,
Yeah.
hey, let's make this a fun game, talking about how your sister was taken out of bed next to you and murdered, and
He was kind of like almost like a
like a
Bozo the Clown, kind of
Pee Wee Herman type character.
Mr. Rogers. Well, I don't, something like that. That's kind of what I was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that. Just a grown man talking to children. I don't know.
Yeah. And
on a children's TV show.
yeah. And then, I thought, how disgusting that they're taking a 5-year-old's word for it, and that's like become the Bible now. And first of all, and then we find out that there really were no teeth marks. That this is something that this I don't even know what
Dr.
you want to call,
West, yeah.
whatever you want to call him, had kind of made up. And how guilty does this woman feel for the rest of her life? She was 5 years old. She didn't know any better.
Yeah.
What kind of guilt has that put on her? And she was in the documentary and she spoke, and my heart just bled for her, because I can imagine how she feels. She feels like she put this man in jail, and he was an innocent man.
And it's horrible to put that on a 5-year-old. That kind of, that's your best witness, that and this bite mark evidence, and that's it. Really, that was what they had. That was unfortunate. And the bite mark evidence, Lindsay, too. What would have been explained to me by the lawyers in the case is that it was just, on both cases, it was just the front top, but like you just bit down with your front teeth. That's it, not bottom teeth. Like, how does anybody just bite down with their front teeth? Like, how do you do that? Like, have you ever been in and just like you're not using your bottom teeth? That's what
I don't know
that's
how
what
that
the
would
bite
really be
marks
possible.
were.
I'm thinking about, like, how would you eat a piece of corn on the cob with just your top?
Yeah.
I mean, I
you're
don't know
not-
how that would work.
Yeah, you're not biting down. So I mean, and Suveron in the Kennedy Brewer case testified to that. It's like, these are just top teeth. These are not, somebody's biting with top teeth, or these could only be top teeth. They ended up not even being bite marks. At the end of this, they found out, once everybody was exonerated, they were just bug bites. They were never bite marks. This was just completely fabricated by Dr. West.
But to this day, he still says that he's 1,000,000% certain.
Yeah.
That man bit that little girl.
Correct. And he keeps on with it, but it seems like to me like it's been, proven that these are bug bites, and Dr. Suveron testified to that too, even back then. But I mean, when you look at it, like, it's just the testimony of this is just top teeth. Like, how does top teeth just make a bite mark? It doesn't even make any sense. So with that case with Lon Brooks, it was, Ashley Smith testified, and the Dr. West testimony. Then you had the carbon copy killing after Brooks was convicted, sentenced to life without parole, not on death row, of Christine Jackson. And she was 3 years old also. Kennedy Brewer was the boyfriend of the victim's mother in this case, same kind of situation. And he was convicted in 1995 on similar bite mark testimony from the same experts, and he was sentenced to death. And that, and there was no DNA there. They didn't do any of that at that time. It was just this bite mark evidence, and the fact that Kennedy Brewer was there at the home sleeping with the mother, and they thought he was the only one that could do it. And that's how it came forward. And they took his dental molds, say like, oh, this matched the bite marks on Christine Jackson, who they found in that creek. And the end, those were bug bites. They were not bite marks. And so Kennedy Brewer spent, the next 13 years on death row or whatever it was.
Seems like some really crappy investigating. In the documentary, they have one of the cops from that town, and he speaks, and he's like, well, I didn't know any better. I just believed what I was told. But no, it was your job. It was your job to know better. It was your job to do more. It was your job not to put an innocent man on death row. That was your job.
Yeah,
Like, there's no responsibility taken by anybody in these cases, it seems like.
and even after the fact that all this stuff came out, they're still not taking responsibility for
Yeah.
it. Like Forrest Allgood was fighting against it. Even in, I think you wrote a letter to the paper saying that Kennedy Brewer may have been still guilty back then. If I remember correctly, I could be wrong about that. I mean, in the documentary, he was clearly saying that, look, even though Kennedy Brewer's semen is excluded as a contributor to Christine Jackson, he still could have assisted the real killer and therefore is guilty of capital murder. Well, how do you know that, though? Like, did you put any evidence that he did that? No. Your evidence was that he killed this girl and those were his bite marks. Well, obviously that's not true. Like, none of that was true, but you're still propounding this theory to cover your own butt. That's it. That's all it's about. And that's the scary thing about our justice system. Like, people are too worried about covering their own, b-holes than they are doing the right thing sometimes. There was another guy, Fly Manning. He's on death row for something he actually did, but he was not guilty or was innocent of another murder that Forrest Allgood prosecuted, and that was overturned based on that. So that's 3 that I know of right there. And it's sad that happened and that somebody was that, obstinate about it, didn't want to. I mean, prosecutors are supposed to seek the truth wherever it leads, like whether you're going to a guilty conviction or the innocent.
Well, we didn't see that with Hank Brennan.
No, right. No, exactly. He's talking about the Karen Reed trial. But I mean, that's what I always took my job to be, was to seek the truth wherever it went. If the guy was not guilty, I was certainly not going to prosecute that person if they were innocent. Like, there's no way.
Don't you think there's some prosecutors out there who just want to win? They just want a conviction. They just want to win.
I mean, I think there's those, they exist. I don't, my group of friends, there's not any of that sentiment from those folks that I know.
I can think of one.
I don't know, but so I just I would say generally not, but yes, I'm sure they exist. And there's prosecutors. Look, people are prosecuting cases. They're thinking, okay, if I get some big victories, it's going to help my political ambitions. Trust me, I was in that camp at one point, but I've certainly never did anything that I thought that unethical to where somebody didn't do it. Plus, I don't know that I ever ran across a case where somebody didn't do it, because it was pretty clear most of the cases I had that they did in fact do it. And so I don't know. I would hope not, but there are examples. Like, there's the Duke lacrosse case with Nye Fong, the prosecutor there in North Carolina, was obviously unethical, and those guys were completely innocent of all of that. And I think he got disbarred. I don't remember if he was sent to prison or not, but that was very serious kind of thing. So yes, to answer your question, they exist. Absolutely. Those prosecutors do exist. I'm glad I'm not friends with any of them. I've not experienced that in my career, those kinds of prosecutors, but unfortunately they're out there, and we see that. But ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go to our next commercial break, and we'll be right back on Crossing the Aisle.
Our community and want to get involved, then visit americansforprosperity.org. Be a part of positive change at americansforprosperity.org. Paid for by Americans for Prosperity.
Pure Air Consultants has always been your go-to for reliable and affordable heating and cooling systems, and now we are offering day and night brand to avoid the 25 to 30% increases that everyone is talking about. With day and night, Pure Air Consultants professionals can install a reliable system with a 10-year system warranty. And right now, receive $20 off on service diagnostic fees. Call us today, 601-939-7420. MyPureAirConsultants.com.
I'm Sean Yurtkaran, and I've spent nearly 20 years in the courtroom, first as a prosecutor in Hinds County, now fighting for my clients as a defense attorney. I know how the system works, and I know how to protect your rights. If you're facing criminal charges, don't wait. Call me at 601-862-1320 or visit me at onetextlaw.com. That's onetextlaw.com. Serious cases need serious defense. And remember, just because you did it doesn't mean you're guilty. Let's get to work.
Peace, love, and pizza. It's Collie Days at Johnny's Pizza House. Load up the crew and hit the road with nothing but good vibes and better pizza. It's all about that crunchy new cauliflower crust. 10 inches of baked bliss. Light, crispy, and full of flavor. It's the ultimate slice for summer chilling. Best enjoyed with sunshine and good company. Nothing but love served one slice at a time. But don't wait. This trip's for a limited time only. Peace, love, and pizza. Happy Collie Days from Johnny's Pizza House.
CBS News Brief. Independence Day is bringing heavy rain to the southwest, heat to the Midwest, and wind to the west coast. Meteorologist John Elliott says the Northeast may have lucked out.
A fantastic 4th. Numbers are nice and humidity values are nice and low as well.
A reminder that 4th of July fireworks can be frightening and stressful to pets.
You want to make sure that you create a safe space in your home, one that's quiet, maybe give them their favorite toy or blanket.
Kelsey Pizzi with the Animal Foundation of Las Vegas says more pets run off on the 4th than any other day. President Trump signs his big, beautiful budget bill into law today. CBS's Nicole Skanga.
The bill increases spending for border security and the military and extends the 2017 Trump tax cuts, while also making cuts to the safety net programs such as SNAP, the Food Assistance Program, and Medicaid.
It could add trillions to the deficit. CBS News Brief, I'm Heather Bosch.
Tri-County Tree Service, the Jackson Metro's premier company to handle all of your tree service needs. Russ Borland and his team specialize in large tree, low-impact removal. Tri-County Tree Service has the right equipment to safely handle the most technical trim jobs or tree removals. Storm damage can happen year-round, so let them clean it up and they'll deal with your insurance claim. Tri-County Tree Service, by phone at 601-TREE-GUY or online at tricotreeservice.com. That's tricotreeservice.com.
Hi, this is Lee Atkins of Home Care Plus in Ridgeland. We are a proud carrier of Abena Premium Incontinence products. Abena has the most absorbency available, making changes and leaks less likely. After 7 years as a seller, I can tell you these products are amazing and worth every penny to quality of life for patient and caregiver. And we ship all incontinence products as well. So please come see us at Home Care Plus in Ridgeland for all the incontinence needs of you or your family member. That's Home Care Plus in Ridgeland.
The weather is heating up and the deals are even hotter at Mazda of Jackson. Right now at Mazda of Jackson, you can drive home your dream Mazda with low financing rates available. 2.9% for 72 months on most models, or finance 36 months and pay just 0.9%. That's right, 0.9%. Experience Mazda's exhilarating performance, top-notch safety, and reliability. It's time to choose Mazda. Shop online at MazdaofJackson.com or visit Mazda of Jackson, I-55 Frontage Road in Jackson.
Attention homeowners and business owners. Complete Exteriors is now Elite Roofing and Gutters. Are your roof and gutters storm ready? The folks at Elite are your local experts in storm protection. Now is the time for an inspection and for proactive solutions that ensure your roof and gutters can withstand any storm. Get up to a possible $250 rebate on a new roofing system for all active military, veterans, and retirees. Online at EliteRoofer.com.
Come together.
Welcome back to Crossing the Aisle, where we are here on this 4th of July special today for you. So we're having a live show. I think Chip had a live show too. It's like us and Chip today went live. So that was here trying to entertain you on 4th of July.
Yes, and Monday we're supposed to have a very special guest.
We
on
do
the show.
have.
I don't know if we can advertise it.
Not just yet. Yeah, we'll wait till we talk to her.
But I think that it's good. I think she's going to be here, and I think it's going to be a great show.
Yeah, I'm excited about it too. I'm excited for you two. We could say she's a woman, you two ladies, because I'm involved in your text message group where I'm just kind of left out on it and just sitting there like a.
We include you.
So I'm excited to hear both of you guys. You guys know a lot more. We're going to talk about the Karen Reed case again.
Really break it down.
Yeah, and we're this is a politics show and it's becoming a true crime show. I know it's a natural evolution of it.
You're welcome.
That's the way. Well, it makes sense, Lindsey. I mean, because since the moment that we met, I think you've been always so into true crime. And I think that's when we first started talking, you were asking me about all these old cases I did. And, and then so you've been obsessed with it. And then of course, then I've got 20 years of background of just doing this for a living, and so it's kind of worked out well.
And I tried to murder with you.
You did try a capital murder case with me 3 months ago. That is not a lie. You actually sat second chair because I didn't have someone else to try it with me. Life of a solo practitioner. So Lindsey, the judge allowed Lindsey to sit second chair, and she got to see the entire trial process, which I think is pretty cool when you're not a lawyer and you don't know how that the back part of that works. And it's kind of foreign to most of us, how that process works and how it plays out. It was to me before I ever did it. In law school, I tried a case like my first week with a law license, and I've told Lindsey the story before. And
funny story.
And I worked for this crazy lawyer, my first job out of law school, and he said, "Hey, go over to where I'm not gonna say where, but go get a continuance." And I thought, well, they just give continuances to everybody. I mean, I'm 25 years old at this time. And so I go there, and the judge is like, "No, we're going to start voir dire." Well, there are all these people in the courtroom, like sitting in the where you watch trials. And I was thinking people just come out and watch trials. I don't know. I didn't know anything about that. And they're like, "No, actually, it was the venire. It was the jury pool." And I was like, "Oh, great." So
all the people who had jury duty.
So they hand me the discovery, and I'm meeting my client for the first time, and
he's just seeing the discovery.
Yeah, and he was charged with like selling dope, and he just didn't want to take the plea deal. So I'm doing voir dire, which is where you pick the jury, and the state goes first, and then I win, and I'm just like, "Ladies and gentlemen, how many people here don't like dope?" Like I don't know any questions. I've never done this before. And that was very. So then my client pled guilty after he saw that. It was pretty bad.
He probably thought my lawyer sucks.
His lawyer 20 years ago, like with the law license, did in fact suck a lot. He really did. It took. I learned, over the years, I got grizzled and beat down and learned just tons about, trial law, obviously. But I do laugh at thinking about that day and, being that young and not knowing anything about the process. But I mean, when you go to law school, they don't teach you about how to try. They don't teach you anything, actually. Law school is BS in my mind. I really have a lot of thoughts on that. It's law school is structured very poorly, and now
these days you can't speak to someone without grilling them as if they're on the stand.
Yes, that's what I do. Well, that I learned as a lawyer at the DA's office, being in trial every other week, being in court for years and years and years. That's where I learned how to be a lawyer. The law school, the way it's structured is they hire these people that are academics, and most of them have never practiced law before. And they teach you basically, it's just all, theories and lofty notions and these case laws that you'll never use. It doesn't teach you how to be a lawyer. It's really, there's a big contingent of attorneys that really, I think most of them probably hate the way law school is set up. It's set up for like academics to have a job that have never experienced what the practice of law is like. And it's very frustrating. I went to Kingfish's, Christmas party, not this year, but last year, the one he has. And well, I mean, what I can't, I mean, people know he has it, just don't know where it is. And I was sitting next to a prominent law professor, and they asked me, "Who was your favorite law professor in law school?" I said, "None of them." They're like, "What?" They're kind of like taken aback, And I was like, "Well, none of them ever have done what I've done, so they don't practice law. So no, I really wasn't impressed with any of them." And so that's been my rub, and I could go on for hours and hours on how much I disagree with the way law school is set up, because I feel like medical school is not set up that way. I feel like that's set up where you actually learn how to be a doctor. Now, I have to get doctors in here, and I could be wrong. You guys are welcome to tell me how that is. But in law school, you don't learn how to be a lawyer. It's 3 years of a lot of wasted time. I think.
Not do mock trials.
There is some of that with moot court, but then you have to, not everybody gets to do that. You have to have a certain GPA to be involved in that, which I think is stupid. It seems like something everybody should learn.
Well, then how on earth are you supposed to know how to?
Well, majority, 90% of lawyers are never going to try a case in their career. I would say 90%, something like that. Maybe I'm shooting a little high. I'd say about 90% will never ever see the inside of a courtroom in terms of an actual jury trial. They may see the courtroom for other things, like a just bench trial or whatever, but they'll never actually try a jury trial. So I guess they think, well, that's not going to be something relevant for people to learn, because that's not that many of you are ever going to really do that. And that's the only thing I can think. Or the other thing, I used to have this theory that it's because the law professors have never done it, so they don't know how to teach it. Like, how is somebody going to teach to do something that you've never done? And now there was a law professor when I was there that was a longtime public defender, and I was in his criminal clinic, and he was great. And that's like the only person I ever learned anything from in law school. His name is Phil Broadhead. If he listens or whatever, he was a great guy, and I learned a lot from him. But other than that, it's not conducive to actually learning how to be a lawyer. You have to do that kind of like you kind of fly by the seat of your pants and learn on the street how to do it. And that's kind of the way that I came up with it. And I think most lawyers probably do. Unfortunately, I wish they revamp. I've got a really good friend of mine that's a law professor at Ole Miss. I mentioned him to you several times, and we argue about this ad nauseum daily in our text thread about my theory about law school and his, and how I think it's handled poorly, and he thinks that the academic route is the best route, and I don't. But anyway, so that was a tangent I didn't mean to go on at all. We were talking about this stuff. Maybe if law school wasn't like this, we'd have less lawyers doing things like this,
like putting innocent men on death row.
Yeah, I mean, so that's the case. We were really the most recent case that's come up in the news that this whole basis of talking about Kennedy Brewer and Levon Brooks is a man named Jimmie Duncan. And Jimmie Duncan was sentenced to death in 1999 for the rape and murder of a 5-year-old Haley Olivier out of Calasawa Parish, Louisiana. The prosecution's key evidence in that were bite marks found on the child's body, and marks that experts at the time claimed matched Duncan's teeth. But now, 25 years later, that evidence is just unraveled. In April of this year, a judge found Duncan factually innocent, ruling that the original forensic testimony, especially from discredited bite mark analyst Michael West, was false and misleading. Same guy on Kennedy Brewer and Levon Brooks and many others. And in that documentary, y'all, The Innocence Files, you got a long weekend, you should watch it. It'll be eye-opening. New forensic experts testified that the so-called bite marks weren't human bites at all. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? But consistent with decomposition and post-mortem artifacts. Even more shocking, Duncan's defense attorney at trial had never defended a capital case before, never challenged the state's experts, and failed to present key evidence of Duncan's intellectual disability. And that's another thing. So you get a lawyer on a capital case, like you sat there with me with a capital case. And I mean, I've tried maybe over 100 cases at this point in my career. Those are serious things. If you don't have any experience, you don't need to be doing it. That's not something that you need to do. It's just right out of the the gate, kind of like my first day practicing law, even though that wasn't a capital case, that was a dope case. But so they're just you need to have somebody that's got some experience doing that stuff. So this is kind of pushed to where now Dr. West is there's 10 plus people I think that have been exonerated that were on death row that we're looking at here.
I mean, at what point does someone bring charges against him?
Yeah, I don't know how that works. I mean, I think they've got some qualified immunity. Because I mean, if you tried to start prosecuting experts, then you wouldn't have any expert testimony anymore. But the problem is he's so egregious, though, that I think that you think something needs to be done because he's destroyed so many people's lives at this point, and is laughing about them on Netflix. Essentially, is what he's doing. And I can't imagine.
He should have called ARCA.
I just can't imagine, when he's shoveling coal, I wonder if he's going to be laughing like that because it's unbelievable that you've destroyed all these people's lives, the best parts of their lives, just because you want to be, more a famous expert and whatever it is. And make yourself richer or do all that, stuff and think you're like this notable person in your field. Though what West did was destroy his reputation. I went to a seminar in Tampa about 10 years ago, maybe a little more than that. That was just a one put on by the feds that was just based on expert witness testimony. And the first name they had is experts never to use, Michael West. This is like 2010, 2011, something like that. Yeah, they're saying
so people knew.
Yeah, and Dr. Bodden, who used to have the show, that autopsy show on HBO, or I think it was called something like that. He's super famous. He did Medgar Evers' autopsy. He did Billy Martin, all these people. Anyway, he was speaking at that conference, and I talked to him privately about it. He said, "Man, I had never seen something like this guy." And this guy Bodden's like the most well-known forensic pathologist in the country, and listening to him talk about it was amazing. But it's a good thing. I don't think anybody's gonna be using Dr. West anymore. People are not using forensic odontology anymore like they once did either. It's kind of considered a junk science in terms of criminal prosecution. In the late 70s when it came on the scene because of Ted Bundy, it was like, wow, this is revolutionary because they didn't have DNA or any of the stuff that we have now. So we've got this bite mark evidence. We can run with this. And it actually, in the Bundy case, was effective and was not junk at that point with Suveron, who put that forward. But the problem is that once it attacked people like Wes and other quacks, it just went all over the place, and now it's pretty much discredited. You can use it. Some courts around the country, I think, still use it, but it's highly suspect. It's nothing I've ever seen in my career. And, I've been a prosecutor and criminal offense
Well,
lawyer since
especially when you see
2005.
this many people who've been convicted become
Yeah.
exonerated because
Right.
the evidence was faulty.
Yeah, you just, you don't see it anymore. So it's a good thing that that's out of the way. And we, and hopefully we'll just keep organizations like the Innocence Project keep digging and keep fighting the good fight and getting these people
Well,
out.
I mean, sometimes I wonder about them. I mean, didn't they come to Scott Peterson's defense recently
I think
too?
they did, and that's really interesting too. And we're going to go to break. We can talk about that. I want to talk about that in the next segment. And hold on, and we'll be back on Crossing the Aisle. Talk about that in the next segment. And hold on, and we'll be back on Crossing the Aisle.
1039 WYAB.
Social Security belongs to you. You work hard and pay into it. So it's only fair for you to expect to get the money you've earned to help cover living expenses and bills, and not for politicians to use as a piggy bank. That's why AARP is fighting to protect your Social Security so you get what you've earned. Learn more at aarp.org/youearnedit. That's aarp.org/youearnedit. Paid for by AARP.
Nick Bain served Mississippi for over a decade in the State House. During that time, he fought for our children by protecting them against explicit materials pushed by the woke agenda. He protected taxpayers by streamlining government and helped create policies that have made Mississippi better. Nick and his team at Bain Bowen will use the same tenacity in helping you with all your legal matters. Call them today at 601-953-2994. Find Nick online at bainbowen.com. That's BAIN Bowen.com.
Hi, folks. Kim Wade here. Mississippi Energy Services provides generators. That's right. You may not need it now, but when you need backup power, you need a backup power generator from Mississippi Energy Services. Never again have to worry about being without heat, air conditioning, or all your frozen items spoiling because your energy was lost. You got backup power now, and it's so reliable. You'll be pleased with Mississippi Energy Services. Online at msenergy.us.
This is Jack Hoffman. For nearly 31 years, Tico's Steakhouse has been a staple for fine dining in Jackson, Mississippi. Dad has long since desired for me to come work alongside him. And now that I'm here, I would like to invite you to come experience our family tradition of our hospitality, sizzling steaks, and healthy poured beverages. Our dining rooms are open and we are taking reservations. Our private rooms are also available along with takeout. Call today or stop in and experience Tico's in the second generation.
Tico's Steakhouse, East County Lime Road in Ridgeland, 601-956-1030.
Here's a word from John White, owner of Two Gun Tactical in Flowood and Ridgeland, the South's only gun tree club, open on July 4th until 2 o'clock.
When I was a kid, you could call 911. That's the first thing you did. That's going to be the last thing you got to do now. Ain't nobody coming, and you better be able to handle it yourself. We got tons of firearms. Again, we got a huge inventory. 2guntactical.com. That's the number 2guntactical.com.
2 Gun Tactical, the South's only gun tree club.
Pure Air Consultants has always been your go-to for reliable and affordable heating and cooling systems, and now we are offering day and night brand to avoid the 25 to 30% increases that everyone is talking about. With day and night, Pure Air Consultants professionals can install a reliable system with a 10-year system warranty, and right now receive $20 off on service diagnostic fees. Call us today, 601-939-7420, mypureairconsultants.com.
Are you hosting an event? Let Burgers Blues Barbecue handle the food while you enjoy the moment. From an important lunch to a dreamy wedding, B3 Catering is sure to please everyone. Find Burgers Blues Barbecue online and click the catering tab or just give us a call. And when you're dining out, visit Burgers Blues Barbecue in Flowood, Brandon, or Madison for incredible plates served fresh daily. Burgers Blues Barbecue and B3 Catering, a delicious combination.
Knock your healthcare needs out of the park with City Center Drugs. Hi, this is Mary Beth Hardy, owner of City Center Drugs, located at the District at Eastover in Jackson. City Center Drugs is your home run destination for prescriptions, over-the-counter medications, vaccines, and even unique gifts with custom gift wrapping. Whether you're aiming to maintain a healthy lifestyle or looking to score the perfect gift, City Center Drugs has got you covered. Swing by today and experience the winning team at City Center Drugs. Visit us online at citycenterdrugs.com and go Braves.
Come together.
And we're back on Crossing the Aisle on this 4th of July special, and wishing y'all guys a great 4th of July. I think we're going to try to find some hot dogs and hamburgers and, I don't know, do all the 4th of July stuff. What do you think, Lindsay?
Yeah.
I think you got to drink beer on 4th of July too. I think that just for some reason.
Just don't drive, right?
Just don't drive. And everybody, I know I've been on this. I've talked about this. There is going to be increased funding for law enforcement. I forget what they're calling this operate. They always call it something, Operation Get Drunk People or whatever it is. Operation Love America, Don't Drink, whatever you want to call it. Be careful. Call an Uber because they're out in force. When you're leaving some bar on the reservoir and you tell the police that you've only had 2 drinks, let me tell you something. They're not going to believe you. They're not going to believe you, and they're going to ask you to take the intoxilizer, which you have a right to refuse if you want to. But if you do refuse it, you're going to get an automatic 90-day administrative suspension of your license. That is in addition to any penalty that you will get once you are convicted, which that's another 120-day license suspension. So that's 210 days without your driver's license.
So you're going to have to call Shaun and give him all your money.
Give me all your money. So Lindsay and I can spend it in Hawaii in a few weeks, which is fine with me. I will be glad to do that. You will not be glad about that. I would suggest you just use that app and spend $40 on the Uber. But if you don't, you can reach me at onetextlaw.com, and Lindsay will answer the phone and talk to you about, maybe rethinking your life decisions and your choices about drinking and driving tonight or this entire weekend, because it's going to be bad out there, folks. So be careful. Anyway, we were just wrapping up with this whole bite mark evidence, innocent people on death row. And Lindsay brought up a good point about Scott Peterson. The Innocence Project has worked on the Scott Peterson case.
Really strange.
Which is really strange to me too. I just if anybody's guilty to me, it's Scott Peterson. Like I feel like I just remember watching that when I was in law school. Like, this guy is such a sack of crap. Like,
we've watched several documentaries, and he seems more guilty by the day.
For our younger folks, Scott Peterson was the guy in Modesto, California, back in 2002 that killed his wife,
pregnant wife,
Lacey Peterson, and
son Connor,
and was having an affair with that Amber woman, Amber Fry. And he dumped her body in the bay there. Is that what it was?
Yeah, and then I think the baby came apart and washed up on the shore first.
Yeah,
it's horrible,
just terrible thing. And and it was a case that kind of shocked the nation. I remember that was I think that started my first year in law school, and then he went to trial.
That case was everywhere.
It was everywhere. Horrible, because really, nice looking young couple. And he, of course, he was living a double life, having an affair. And he decided he didn't want to be a dad because he had a kid coming on the way, and killed them. And he was convicted for that. I mean, I remember the guy even dyed his hair when he was
and had $10,000 and was driving to Mexico.
Right. He had so many different stories, and now they're trying to blame it on some crew of people that were committing house burglary. And it's called. And we are off the air now, I think.
See, you got to watch that clock.